Welcome to Enviro Talk, your podcast where we bridge the gap between theory and action in the field in terms of environmental management. Today we are more than delighted. We are hosting Mr. Simon Bere, acting chairperson from the Institute of Waste Management. We want to speak into issues to do with integrated waste management in Zimbabwe. We know we have an integrated waste management plan as Zimbabweans. Are we following that? How far are we as a nation in doing that? And to help us unpack what's happening on the ground, we have Mr. Bere. Please, Mr. Bere, introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Engineer Simon Bere. I'm an environmental engineer, but at the moment in Zimbabwe I'm focusing mainly on integrated solid waste management. Mainly it's about planning and also doing what the first stages that include also waste characterization, where we are helping cities and communities to come up with a measured way of looking at how much waste they're generating so that they can produce the very best of integrated solid waste management plans.
Thank you very much for taking time to talk to us, Mr. Bere. Just to begin our conversation, what is integrated waste management? Can you unpack what integrated waste management entails and how does it differ from the traditional waste disposal methods?
Yeah, so when we talk about integrated solid waste management, we are talking about the recommended way of dealing with waste, which is more sustainable than what we call the traditional approach. The traditional approach is just the way we generate waste and then we collect the waste, first of all, temporarily in our homes, and then we can put it into skip bins if it's outside, and then we collect that waste and then we go and dispose it somewhere. And in terms of traditional waste management, we are disposing that waste at what we call an engineered disposal site. So these are either holes in the ground or just putting somewhere on the ground, we just throw away the waste. So we are disposing that waste in a very unsafe way because we are polluting the environment, and that waste, because it is not put in a way that is well contained and controlled so that we can manage the waste itself but also the pollutants that are produced by the waste. So we are also polluting the environment. This is the traditional approach: generation, collection, transport and disposal, either in deep holes or on the surface. So the integrated solid waste management has got three main principles. The first one is to prevent the generation of waste. The second one is to divert any waste that is generated away from the landfills. So we are discouraging landfilling, which is throwing away of any waste that is generated. Then the third one, if we have to dispose any waste, then we have to dispose it in a safe way. That is using what is called engineered landfills, which are well-constructed landfills which are designed to properly secure the waste and also to deal with the outputs that are generated from disposal of waste. So we are talking about the leachate, which is the thick, what we call the soup that is created when waste decays. But also we are talking about the gases that are generated, especially methane, which is generated at landfill when there is anaerobic digestion or decomposition of the waste. That is decomposing of the waste without oxygen. So this methane, you know that it is directly related to global warming and also directly to climate change. So solid waste management is the fourth biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. That's why it's important for us to use integrated, because it reduces the generation of waste, but also it makes sure that we reduce the generation of methane. At the same time, we reduce the pollution of the groundwater. The fourth one, which is critical, is the recovery of anything that we are calling waste management. Anything that can be reused, we recover it. So we are saying between prevention of generation and disposal, we must do some activities that ensures that anything that we generate as waste is recovered and is used in another way. so that we don't end up with any waste going to the disposal site. So integrated, we are talking about two main things: prevent the generation of waste, then prevent the disposal of waste at disposal sites. So as much as we can prevent from disposing, let's do that. But in the event that we fail to prevent disposal, let's dispose whatever we're going to dispose in a safe way. Those are the pillars of what we call integrated solid waste management.
Thank you very much, sir. You've taken us through the key components of integrated solid waste management. And I'm looking at us as a nation, maybe from your side as the Institute of Waste Management, how far have we gone in trying to adopt this integrated waste management idea? How far have we gone?
Yes. The government started talking about integrated solid waste management as way back as 1998. That was the first attempt that was done by the then Ministry of Environment to come up with a framework for integrated solid waste management. Then going further, 2014, the government also came up with what we call the National Integrated Solid Waste Management Plan. The challenge has been that while the government has got the policy as integrated solid waste management, there's been a gap between the policy and the translation of the policy into practical actions. The local authorities, the cities and towns, have not been following up very closely, adopting the government policy. So there's been a very big gap between what the government wants done in terms of solid waste management and the local authorities who are supposed to be responsible for translating government policy in terms of solid waste management into practical action. They have not been embracing integrated solid waste management. But slowly things have started to change. Now cities and towns are beginning to embrace integrated solid waste management, because the first two steps of moving away from the traditional to integrated solid waste management is, first of all, the councils have to adopt integrated solid waste management as a policy. The second one is the cities and towns, they need to know how much waste they are generating. So that is why waste characterization is a very important step in managing waste in a sustainable way. So once these local authorities know how much waste they are generating, this third stage is developing what is called the integrated solid waste management strategic plan or master plan, because this one ensures that all the key stakeholders who are involved in solid waste management come up with one plan and they speak from one voice. So there is a comprehensive integrated way of managing the waste. So that's where most local authorities are. They are at the very early stages. But for example, Harare City Council, Harare City has already developed its own integrated solid waste management strategic plan and a waste characterization. We've got other cities like Kariba town, we've got Sape, we've got Gweru City. They have already developed their integrated solid waste management. What is now lacking is now the implementation of those activities. But at least they've started. So the starting is what is important. Unfortunately, also, most of the information is not being shared about what is happening. So when people come and ask about what Zimbabwe is doing, some people may not even know that Zimbabwe is actually way ahead compared to other cities and towns around in SADC. Zimbabwe is way ahead because at least there are some of the cities, they've got their characterization reports. They know how much waste they are generating. They've developed their strategic plans. Because once you have a plan, you are almost 40%, because anyone can get the plan, and then what it means is just the implementation. If you don't have the plan, then you haven't started.
Interesting, engineer. It's actually encouraging to know that at least as a country we are somewhere. We already have those plans. We are steps ahead in terms of integrated waste management. Maybe just break it down a bit, engineer. Don't be too technical. For the sake of our viewers, what does the circular economy entail? Can you break it down in terms of why are we saying let's recover usable, reusable stuff from waste. Why are we saying that? How does it help the economy? Break it down for our viewers.
The circular economy is the process by which we recover all the waste that we generate. Because once we start talking about integrated, all what we're calling waste becomes a resource. So if waste becomes a resource, it means we need to keep the resources within the economy for as long as possible. Because when we say waste, when we talk about integrated, we no longer talk about waste, we talk about a resource. Waste as a resource. So we are talking about material flow. So we are saying whatever we produce as waste, it's a resource. So we need to keep that resource within the economy for as long as possible. That's why we are saying recovering of that material and reusing it for other purposes and reusing. So a circular economy simply means that whatever we are generating, we are not throwing it away. We are keeping it within our economy as long as possible. So if we are talking about plastic, for example, a circularity in plastic material, we are saying we are not throwing away any plastic that can actually be reused within the economy. So that is what we're calling circular economy.
Thank you very much. So maybe you can give us the practical examples as the acting chairperson in the Institute of Waste Management. I'm sure you work with these stakeholders who are already embracing that circular economy, or you actually interact with a lot of stakeholders who are in the waste recovery section as well. Just give us a few practical examples. Where is it happening in Zimbabwe? Is it really paying in Zimbabwe?
Yes. Okay. So what happens is, apart from talking about integrated, there's always a lot of initiatives when it comes to integrated solid waste management, some of it driven by economic interests. So we have a lot of activities going on in terms of trying to get into circularity. Although when people do things, they don't say we are doing circular economic circularity. They don't use that term. But what they are doing is actually part of the activities that are involved. We have, for example, the company, which is a number of companies and organizations. If you go to Mavuku, there is a UN Habitat. It has developed what is called an integrated resource recovery center, Mavuku. So this recovery center is where people in Mavuku, they will bring their waste. Their waste is sorted, and then at the center, most of the material is recovered. And when it is recovered, then it is sold to people who then use it to produce other goods. For example, recycled plastics, and also the other things like irrigation pipes, which are made from recovered plastics. So this is one example. The other example is Pomona. And then the other example is we also have a big company called Petrogosim, which is actually a big organization which is recovering a lot of PET from the environment. So these things are happening, and also we've got so many other small players who are involved in the circularity of especially the plastic side of things.
Quite encouraging. So I'm sure, yes, we've got these wins, these big wins. Let's speak to the obstacles or to the challenges in effective waste management.
The big thing is the big challenge. There are two. One is the education and awareness. The second one is when you are dealing with the waste, the economy is created, the markets are created. There must be a deliberate effort by the key players to create the market so that the people who are involved in, for example, recycling, collecting material, they can collect at a profitable scale. Because some of them, they may not be profitable if there is no mechanisms to make sure that people who are collecting, when they sell, they get a price that can keep them in business. So that kind of support is critical. We also have some very people who are at the ground, which we call the waste pickers, who are right on the ground picking recovered material. Those are some of the people that are often ignored when it comes to support. So it becomes very difficult to sustain the circularity if we don't support those people, and also if we don't create the markets, a viable recycling industry where the players who are involved, they are encouraged to continue operating in a profitable way.
Okay, so to our viewers, maybe as individuals, what role can they play in supporting the circular economy? We have broken down what the circular economy is, and we are saying these guys who are in this need to be supported right from the waste pickers to the companies which are doing recycling initiatives. How can individuals support the circular economy?
The first and most important thing is to handle their waste responsibly wherever they are, to make sure that if possible they separate their waste, putting the plastics and the bottles, the things that can be recycled in a different way, because one of the things that creates problems is the sorting and also the contamination of the material that can be recovered. So if we separate its source, so that we put organic waste in its own, in some of the plastics and the PET, different types of bottles in different areas, those people who want to come and collect and recover, they will find it easier. And also when we start processing, it becomes easier because there's less contamination of the material. Like the bottles, if they are mixed, like different types of plastic, and if they are mixed together, they end up causing problems, but they need to be resorted, and also sometimes in terms of selling, you find that some people may not be willing to buy because it will be contaminated. If somebody wants to buy what you call PET, he does not want to find PVC among the material that is called PET, because that's contamination. So education and awareness, and also promoting the habits of sorting the material source is very, very important to promote circularity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bere. Maybe before we go, as you introduced yourself, you said you're coming from the Institute of Waste Management. Which stakeholders do you work with? Probably our viewers are really wondering, where are you? What do you do exactly? Who do you work with?
Yes.
Please talk to
the Institute works with all the people, key stakeholders who are involved, who are interested in waste management. So we are not just talking about the solid waste, we are also talking about waste, the other types of waste like wastewater, air pollution, gaseous waste. So we are bringing stakeholders in different levels. Some of them they're experts, some of them they are just people who are interested in communities, who are interested in making sure that we've got a safe and secure environment by managing our waste in a sustainable way. So we've got different types, we've got policymakers, we have got researchers, we've got all sorts of people, anyone who is interested in promoting sustainable waste management.
Everyone is welcome.
Everyone is welcome.
Your parting shots, say.
Yeah, I think the critical thing is that if you want to achieve sustainability, we really need to start by looking at the backbone. The backbone is integrated solid waste management. So I'm encouraging everybody to embrace integrated solid waste management and follow the steps so that we're able to transition successfully as a country from what we are doing now, which is expensive, which is very laborious, to something that is more sustainable, which is integrated. Let's have our waste characterization so that we know how much waste we are generating. Let's develop our integrated strategic plans. Let's look for resources to fund those plans, and let's implement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bere, for coming through, and thank you for your time.
Okay.
That was quite an insightful discussion, viewers, from breaking down the integrated solid waste management plan to breaking down the circular economy. It was quite an insightful discussion. If you need more information on the integrated solid waste management plan, please visit our website www.ema.co.zw. You get more information from there. And if you have any questions, please drop your questions in the comment section. This was Enviro Talk, your podcast by the Environmental Management Agency, and I'm your host, Nolin Lona. Till next time, keep clean.